What?
We're gonna do the
They have
pledge
to
and
start, they're
stuff
gonna,
first.
Oh,
they'll start,
perfect.
they'll let you know when they're ready for it.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. All right, perfect. So we actually already started the meeting, but we're just gonna, in good faith, do the pledge again real quick, okay? So could you stand for the pledge? I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Everybody make sure that your phones are on silent or turned off, please. Okay, now we're ready for you.
So Miss Allen, if I can just take a second, we're really excited to do Music in Our Schools Month, so we've asked Miss Allen, and she has some of her students here. They're gonna sing a selection for you. Our district concert is tomorrow night at 7 o'clock, 7 o'clock? 7 o'clock, thank you. And we also have the district art show that'll be in the front foyer as you come into the high school area and in the cafeteria, so we hope that everyone can come out and see all the work they've done. They had a great rehearsal this afternoon, I heard, so, Miss Allen.
Right, so this is part of our select choir, and they volunteered their time to come perform for you tonight. So I'm super happy about that. And we're gonna do a song called "Fly Me to the Moon." Everybody hum it?
Fly me to the moon and let me play among the stars. Let me see what spring is like on Jupiter and Mars. In other words, hold my hand, do-do-do. In other words, darling, kiss me. Fill my heart with song and let me sing forevermore. You are all I long for, all I worship and adore. In other words, please be true, be true. In other words, I love you. Ba-ba-dee-ya, ba-ba-ba-dee-ya, ba-doo-be-ya, ba-doo-ba, ba-ba-ba-dee-ya. Fill my heart with song and let me sing forevermore. You are all I long for, all I worship and adore. In other words, please be true. In other words, I love you. Ba-ba-dee-ya, ba-ba-ba-dee-ya, ba-doo-be-ya, ba-doo-ba, ba-ba-ba-ba.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Great job, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Right back.
You're gonna have to come back and get me later.
Your daughter, everybody, or just?
The second one on the end.
Yeah, I can see she.
Yeah.
Does the admin team want to sing next, or? Let's try to keep it light. Okay.
I knew you'd give it a shot.
Are you rolling this?
Dennis can't sing alone, so.
Row your boat.
In a round and go.
Is the oxygen flowing in here tonight or what? Okay, so we're gonna move on to minutes. C1 and 2 for March 2nd and March 14th. Can I have a motion, please? Thank you. Mrs. Allen, and a second by Mr. Dates. Questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, D, financial reports. Could I have a motion for D1, please? Please.
A motion.
Thank you, Mrs. Bliss. And a second, Mr. Nodine? Questions on this?
I need just a minute, please. I'm seeing that there's a new one,
Okay.
and I want to be able to look at it before I.
Is it the same as the other one, it just changed the dates?
It's the same?
It came up as something's changed.
The date was,
The dates
was
were
changed.
off, John forgot to change the dates on the second page. And coincide with the first page, and I didn't flip one for him, sorry.
Not like you can.
Okay, these are like all different dates. Oh, okay. So my only question that I have related to this, well, actually, I'm sorry, I have two questions. One, and I'm not sure if you will know, wait, hold on, this looks so different.
Jolene, when you get there, will you tell us what section you're on?
What page?
Half page.
Well, I'm looking at the claims report, the claims audit report, and before the first section was not one of these types of pages, and these pages were wrong dates and wrong information. So I was just making sure that it tied out. Okay, so on the second page.
The second full page?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It says internal claims auditor log. When it's talking about total audited, is that referring to total checks audited or claims, like invoices or?
Yes, the one and the same. The total invoices and checks together that were paid.
Okay, okay. Oh, shoot. And my only other, and this is just an observation, this isn't gonna work,
If you look.
is there was only
look at the top,
one
there's a-
finding for like,
There's a 100% up there, and then to the right of that is a plus sign. Then 2 over, there's a rotate. You can actually rotate it a couple of times by clicking that button up there.
thanks. So between the months of November and the middle of March, we only had one,
Excuse me.
one finding.
Apparently.
Okay.
I guess my only question to follow up with that is, how do we make sure that our claims auditor is being properly trained? Like, have they gone to training that's provided?
I'm not sure if she did go to training that was provided. She was trained by the previous internal claims auditor. I will look into that though.
Just seems very highly unlikely to only have one finding over that amount of time.
Agreed.
So it's just, an observation. And the only other thing I wanna double check on is, as we said in the last meeting, and it says in the cover page, that we're gonna do quarterly reports. So this report includes like up to the middle of this month.
There is an issue where there's also a time period that is missing before this.
Yep.
So we're going to get that taken care of.
So are we going to go to a quarterly basis after this? And would that be like, so the rest of March would be reported April, May, June, so in July with that next quarter?
I would like to get onto a quarterly basis where it starts on July 1st and ends on June 30th. I need to get I need to get that time period before November though. We need to get that covered as well.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you.
Other questions? Okay. Go ahead. Yep.
Mr. Dates?
Yes.
Mrs. Allen? Yes. Mrs. Damon? Yes. Mrs. Bliss?
Yes.
Mr. Nodine?
Yes.
And Mrs. Madigan?
Yes. Okay. seeing that we're going to give this consent agenda a try again, if I can figure out how to do it. I am looking for a motion for the consent agenda. Everything listed there from E through, you're getting ahead of me, E through G, with the exception of, I need her number, the F3, please. Mrs. Dingman, are you still willing to make the motion?
I'll make the motion.
Thank you. Can I have a second, please?
Second.
Mr. Nodine? Okay, questions about that group? Okay.
So you've got 1, 2 in the past, right? 1 and
Yes,
2,
yep,
okay.
1, 2, but not 3.
Yeah, thank you.
Mhm.
Okay. Mr. Dates?
Yes.
Mr. Nodine?
Yes.
Mrs. Damon?
Yes.
Mrs. Bliss?
Yes.
Mrs. Allen?
Yes.
And Mrs. Madigan?
Yes,
Okay.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so I would take a motion for F3, the retirement of Tina Johnson, please. Mr. Nodine and Mr. Dates. Dr. Macaluso.
I mean, what can I say, right?
What'd you do? I mean-
I know, and, you know, I yelled at her a little bit last week when she handed it to me, and I think I broke a cardboard box on her table, but Tina Johnson's just fantastic. And this year has been such a great spotlight too, you know, as we've opened up from all the different things we've had to focus on, the things that she has been able to do. You know, we brought in a guest guest author back in the fall. We had another guest author, a local author yesterday. We've got the book, vending machine that she's been such a great part of, where the kids just love going down. And she has, while we've added the STEAM pieces in to our rotation, this week especially, she's been doing that for the past few years. You know, the kids are coming in and they'll do STEM projects in the library as they're working on it. So, you know, I mean, Tina Johnson's just fantastic. She's been a stalwart here, you know, for a long time. She worked in the reading department before she moved over to the library. Just a great person. We're absolutely going to miss her tremendously from the library.
Mr. Taylor, as you know, if we vote no, I think she gets to retire anyway, so just keep that in mind.
It is a little early, so, you know. Yeah.
Thank you for the comments. Anybody else?
Well, just in the same way of other people, it's helpful with the budget development, just to know what you have and the way. So I think it's kind of her to put this in at this point, and, you know, and be able to, address that when all the plans are being made. So thank you to her and all she's offered.
Okay. When you're ready.
Mrs. Damon?
Yes.
Mrs. Bliss?
Yes.
Mrs. Allen?
Yes.
Mr. Nodine?
Yes.
Mr. Dates?
Yes.
And Mrs. Madigan?
Yes,
Okay.
sorry, thank you.
That's okay.
Okay, I would be willing to take a motion, non-consensually, for H 1 through 5.
I have a question.
About one of those?
I do, yeah.
Can we take the motion all together, or do you need it separated?
Oh, no, yep, we can
You
take it all
take it?
together, yep.
Okay, so Mrs. Allen, and a second. Mr. Nodine? Any questions?
Oh, yes, I do. This question is for Mr. McDonald. With regard to the bus proposition, I
Yes.
noticed that the bus proposition is for a certain amount, which is less than the amount reserved. So I was hoping you could just walk us through why we reserved more than what is expected to be spent,
Sure.
if that's.
The reserve is actually for a specific period of time. In this case, our bus reserve is for 10 years. We have a specific amount of money that we can put in there. I think that it's either $2.5 or $4 million that we can put in there over the life of the reserve. We, at the end of the year, when we have excess fund balance, we would put money in there. And instead of putting this money into the budget, we would take it out of the reserves. So when we have, in years that we might have a little bit more, we'll put more into the reserves as long as there's room for it in that reserve. And the two reserves that we have right now that are sort of restricted as far as what we can put into it and have a time period is a capital reserve for buses, and then the capital reserve, which we would use for our projects.
Okay.
So we'll always try to have a little bit more in there as we start paying that down, because as a district, we rely on that reserve in order to buy the buses. Once we start getting into our funding ceiling, we're gonna go back to the taxpayers and we're going to ask for another one so that we can refund us another one. We just did that back in 2019, I believe, or 2020.
Okay. Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
The motion on the table was for 1 through 5, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, so I had indicated that there was a typo in that proposition, pat instead of pay. So that needs to be, if you look to the question mark and look 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 words over, you don't pat the interest, you pay the interest. So that just needs to be corrected in all 3.
It's the last line.
Mm-hmm, yep. Well, there's only one line, it's only one
gotcha.
sentence, it's one long sentence.
Right,
I just meant visually lines, I
the
don't.
last sentence.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, last sentence.
The last full one,
Yeah.
last full line.
Yep.
5 words over. For me, right.
Could we amend that motion with a correction, please, Mr. Nolan?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Thank you. Other questions about H 1 through 5?
So I had asked a question regarding the transfer authorization of at what point will the negatives in the budget that have taken place, when are they going to be corrected?
Are you asking when all of them are going to be corrected?
Well, yes, because just a few weeks ago, we talked about how one line is overexpended by $344,000, and that wasn't included on this, which was dated for today.
Correct. What I did was I went through and there were some that open POs, once we close them, are going to erase the negative, so I left those. There are, because we have open purchase orders and then they put in purchase orders for other things. We knew we had the room, so we left it there. The very large buildings and grounds negative balance, I'm leaving that right now until we get this cleaned up, and then we're going to go ahead and we'll take care of that at the next meeting.
How many open POs do you just have there? Oh,
You would be surprised. There are, especially in transportation. And we have they have open POs for a lot of vendors.
unfortunately, that's not where the deficit spending is taking place though, but thank you so much for your clarification.
Other questions? When you're ready.
Okay. Mr. Dykes?
Yes.
Mrs. Hess?
Yes.
Mrs. Hinman?
Yes.
Mr. Nolan?
Yes.
Mrs. Allen?
Yes.
And Mrs. Hannigan?
Yes. Thank you. I don't think that I need a motion, so whenever you're ready.
Okay. Bill, you're up.
Sorry, I didn't know if it was a joint effort, I should have just.
Oh.
Okay.
Yeah.
How great that I made.
It worked. All right. The preliminary budget has been put together. You'll see a copy of it in your condensed version of it in the packet that you were sent today. The budget hearing right now is scheduled for Tuesday, May 2nd. It's going to be in the auditorium where we'll present to the public the budget that we put together and that you will have approved. The budget vote is going to be in the high school library on May 16th and be held from noon until 8 p.m. I do want to let you know that there is a time change for that. We're going to be ending it at 8 p.m. instead of 9 this year. So it will be an hour shorter in the evening so that we can get the counting done. And that'll be in the high school library, or excuse me, lobby.
Do you mind if I ask, is there any reason it was always till 9?
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
It was.
So we always did it.
Yeah, I was gonna say, so there's probably no reason.
When there were the voting machines,
Yeah.
Oh,
most
it's
of them went till 9 because you click a
Gotcha.
button and you have your count.
Okay,
But most districts shortened it by an hour when we started counting back
gotcha.
in.
Okay, I was just wondering, thank you.
The goals that we looked at was to maintain and enhance the existing student programming, the opportunities and experiences, while maintaining fiscal responsibility. We wanted to maintain long-term educational, financial, and operational planning. We wanted to keep the reserves and to maintain the reserves at a manageable level for success of the district in the future, and also be sensitive to the needs of the community. Our tax cap calculation. Our tax cap this year came in at 2.6%. That would have allowed us to increase the levy by $126,423. We decided to keep it at a 2% increase for the levy, which will allow for an additional $96,544. On this slide, it's a little difficult to see, but what we did is we did a calculation using, if everything remained the same from last year, equalization rates, assessments. So this data is not, it's not 100% accurate, but it'll give you an idea of what that increase is going to look like per $100,000 property value. In Conquest, 2% levy increase, the difference in the levy for $100,000 would be $33.56. It's going to be a little more, a little less than that once the equalization rates come out, and like I said, everything else. But all things being equal, $33.56. For Sterling, an additional $28.82. For Victory, $25.42. Butler, $22.88, and then Wolcott, $23.37. So it's not, this increase at 2% won't be too much of an impact, we're thinking, on our taxpayers this year.
Oh, no, I'm saving them to the end, I don't want to interrupt.
Budget highlights. Our budget this year is, right now, is at $24,181,814. I am still working on some other numbers, which is going to change this number on the expenditure side. Revenues have not been set yet by the legislature, so we're still waiting and hoping that April 1st is going to come with a budget. Proposed budget for, excuse me, that was the 22-23. Our proposed budget is $24,993,023 for an increase of $811,209 budget to budget. These increases are due to increased costs, fuel, electricity, natural gas, salary increases, and then the lawnmower purchase. Normally we would have had about an $80,000 expenditure in the equipment code for vehicle purchases, but we had to increase that to $150,000 in order to make way for the lawnmower purchase. On the revenue side, levy increase of 2%, like I said, an increase of $96,544 for a total levy of $4,923,758. Our use of appropriated fund balance right now is at $817,672, which is the money that we have in our savings account that we are going to be appropriating to the budget. Our reserves, we're planning on using $445,000 for a total of $1.2 million approximately. A 1% increase in our levy would have been $48,272, just to give you an idea of, for each percentage increase, how much that would have given us in revenue. Our current staffing update, we have 2 additions, which would be the ELA coach, which will be grant funded, and a math coach, which will also be grant funded. And then we have 3 what I would call vacancies. 2 in the elementary, 1 is a retirement, 1 is a vacancy. And then in the high school, we have a math vacancy that we need to fill. I put this in here for reference just to give you an idea. Every year, Excelis, through the consortium, raises our health insurance by a specific dollar amount, or a specific percentage. Last year it was 22%, that was a little bit higher, or a lot higher than they have normally done in the past. This year what they're noticing is that a lot of the districts are going into the high deductible plans and that they're becoming a little lopsided. So what they're trying to do is they're identifying years where there might not have been the need for such a high increase for the other plans, and then try to make up for it, make up the high deductible by increasing that more. So what they're gonna do this year
is each plan is now going to be increased at a different percentage. The Blue Point 2 plans that we have, 3.5%. All the Healthy Blue plans that we've got are gonna be at 5%, and the high deductible plan increases will be 12%. The premiums on the high deductible plans are not, they're much lower than the Blue Point 2 plans and even about half of what the Healthy Blue plans are. But we do have a little bit less than 50% of all of our plans right now in the high deductible. The bus proposition, buses went up a lot this year. We were paying $120,000 to $130,000 for a bus, and they've jumped up to $160,000 to $180,000 now for the wheelchair bus that we're looking at. So the proposition is not to exceed $370,000, and this money will come out of the capital reserve for buses that we discussed earlier. I wanted to put this in here just to give you an idea of where we are right now and what I identified that is coming from the legislature. Both houses have accepted the executive proposal to fully fund the foundation aid, with each district receiving at least 3% if they were below that. Both houses are rejecting the high impact tutoring foundation aid set aside. That was the money where if you received more than 3%, they wanted you to set aside a certain percentage of that money for high impact tutoring, and then we would need to report to the state how we spent that. Both houses are including funding for universal school meals. That would be free meals for every student. We're not hearing a lot about this in the news, but both of the one house bills have included that. When the governor put out her proposal in budget, she did not include it. So it's going to be something interesting to watch. Both houses have proposed to increase investments in CTE by raising the BOCES aidable salary cap. That'll be interesting to watch as well. Right now, I believe it's between 30 or 35,000. It has changed, so they want to increase that to help out the districts. And that there are few salaries that we have both. On the non-special ed side that we would benefit from. And finally, both houses are including funding for the state ed to conduct a study on the foundation aid formula. There have been a lot of, I'm going to say, concerns with the formula that different districts have had, and they just want them to go back in and take a look at it and make sure that it's working the way that it's supposed to. Any questions? Yes.
I have one question.
Sure.
And maybe this is a joint answer. I'm assuming that the high school math vacancy is the classroom that we're doing the visual, all the TV screen deals.
The retirement of Kim Rice.
Right, but I mean, didn't we try to fix that problem?
The statistics is that one class is being covered right now.
So I assume that we're obviously still trying to fill that retirement.
Correct.
Will that vacancy being filled remove that classroom?
So the information you received in my update is the distance learning room, and so we're looking to put a grant funded TA in that room so that we can offer some more for our students, so.
But so it's in addition to?
So that
Okay.
statistics class will go back to a regular teacher.
I didn't mean to jump ahead to your
No,
reports,
that's-
but I
no,
wasn't
that's okay.
sure if this was another vacancy, you know what I mean, or how that was working,
No,
so.
so the distance learning room will stay, and then we'll be replacing Kim still.
And Kim would be at,
And
I
that statistics
feel bad
class
saying
would-
Kim,
would
that
move.
would be a different
That
class.
could move, yes.
Okay,
Yes.
okay, thank you, I
Sure,
appreciate that.
absolutely.
Sorry, Mr. McDonald, I
No,
kind
that's
of needed a
fine.
joint effort there, so I.
It's okay, happy to help.
I
Thank
appreciate
you.
the help.
Sure thing.
Any other questions?
I have a question about the health insurance.
Yes.
So one thing I noticed in the budget is that our health insurance, oh, I got the wrong one open. That's the memo.
Excuse me.
Our health insurance was going down, what we were budgeting for health insurance is going down by like $200,000. So, but you just mentioned that the rates are going up.
Rates are going up. I'm doing some right sizing in the health insurance. Before there was, the rates that, or the premiums that the retirees and that the employees were paying, they were put in there and then they weren't always being accounted for in the budget. So I'm trying to make an account for that and have the treasurer apply those on a more regular basis so that we don't fall behind in that budget code.
Okay. And the other question I have about health insurance is, you were talking about the high deductible going up, that's kind of going up more than double any of the others. If I'm remembering correctly, one of the initial pushes or a push to high deductible plans in general is that, it's the benefit of a lower premium. I know you said that it's still a lower premium.
It is.
But if you're saying we have 50% of our staff in that high deductible, if they initially are like, well, wait a minute, the benefit was originally that was a lower premium, but then we had this other HSA or whatever it's called, is there any concern about people starting to move back to those other plans?
I don't see it going up. Right now the premium for the high deductible is a little bit less than half of what it is for the Healthy Blue.
Okay.
So we're not there. We may get there at some point someday, but we're not there yet.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Other questions?
So you had talked a lot about numbers here, but not a lot about student programming. So how are you enhancing student programming with this budget that you're proposing?
I don't know how we would answer that directly. Our staffing, we're adding the 2 grant-funded coaches. That's not out of the budget, that's grant-funded.
Supporting this budget. This budget
Right.
is, how are we helping students here?
We're maintaining consistency. We're not cutting.
I'm offended by this because we, in the beginning of the school year, saw how we were not supporting our children to have them be successful. And there is nothing here that's saying, hey, this is what we're doing. This is what we aren't having. You wanna take care of a lawnmower, I'm not understanding this. So how much of this?
The lawnmower, we're gonna need to probably take a closer look at the lawnmower. I got quotes for a lawn service to come in and it'd be about $132,000 a year.
I'm not certainly questioning why are you looking at a lawn service, but this budget here is increasing 3.4%, $811,000,
Yes.
and $150 of that is for the lawnmower, and then the rest of it you're saying is salaries, but there's nothing that's being enhanced here. How are you helping kids here?
I don't know how that would be directly reflected in the budget. We're constantly looking at new programs. We brought in the distance learning program, we're bringing in the coaches.
Grant funded. So
Well-
let's talk about the grant funding. So how many folks do we currently have in the grant funded programs that are going to expire?
I can't answer that off the cuff.
So specifically from the ones that will expire, so just the stimulus, we have 2 learning center staff members who are paid from there right now full-time, and a part-time STEAM teacher paid from there primarily at this point. I could perhaps dovetail Bill's presentation, one of these presentations, with a grant update of where we are and what's available in those, because there is money in them at this point to be able, as we talked with our staffing meeting, to add the coaches, to be able to explore some of those programming options. I think as an administrative team, we want to have some direction in terms of what's preferred for our students. And so I think at this point, that's a conversation that we're gonna have to take the lead on as a group to say, where are we headed with this? Because there's a year and a half or so.
So you have a handful of folks in a grant funded program that's going to expire, and is the plan then to say, oh, they don't have a job after that much time, after the grants expire, or are you gonna bring them into the general fund? This budget here that you're trying to support.
I couldn't tell you what the discussion was when those positions were created, I wasn't here yet.
But you have had to indicate what is the plan after those funds expire. That was
So-
just
So
a
it's a
month
good,
ago.
it's a good point that you bring up, and it's always a concern when you have grant-funded programs that the grant will expire and then the program will expire. So I think what Jen is saying is we need to look at when those grants are gonna expire and what we need to do to continue to support those programs, and we can do that.
So how, like, is that something that should be starting to build into this budget because it's gonna go away? You know, I'm offended tonight that we're talking about levies and we haven't even had an instructional budget, we haven't had a discussion yet. But we're already talking about levies, but your levy is capped at 2.6 according to the cap, but you're only going to 2% when just in a few years, if we're gonna bring those grant funded positions in, you're still gonna be capped.
Sure.
Well, it's, what's reflected in this budget, and it's a working progress, is 2%.
We're gonna be asked to, because I've asked for budget meetings and it hasn't happened. So we're gonna be asked April 12th to adopt a budget and support this budget that we go out there. That's our responsibility, is to support a budget.
Correct.
How can you support a budget when we don't know anything about it right now?
There have been, well, the two meetings that we've had and the opportunities, you're more than welcome to, I'll meet with anybody at any time on this. I think that the communication did go out expressing that.
Oh yes, I've heard it that we could meet with 3 people or less to discuss.
Well, that's a quorum issue, yes.
That's to discuss the line item budget that not all the board members are interested in discussing, but certain board members expressed an interest, so Bill offered that he would meet with them to do that.
There's an issue with, we're presenting a budget here, and we don't know where our finances are from one month to the next. So we have increases of 17%, and they're not even corrected at this point, they're overspent, so how do you know?
I don't understand the correlation between the two.
I understand that. I have no further questions. I don't think,
is there more to, you don't think what? Okay. Other questions for Mr. McDonald?
Have you heard a timeline of what, that you'll hear more definitiveness at all from the state? You got enough pulse of that?
Not yet. I heard an interview with the governor today saying that there are certain things that she's not willing to budge on, and that if they have to go, if they have to go out further than April 1st, then she's willing to do that. So, but and that might have been lip service for the radio. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Bill, there was one more thing
Sure.
that I was comparing the budget this year to the proposed. I don't know if it ties out back to this mower or not, but when I was looking at operation of plant and maintenance of plant, the increase year to year for that is about $300,000. But when I was looking at the increase for instruction, it was only like $100,000. So I guess maybe it ties back to some of Nancy's concerns about where we're increasing our budget. You know, if we've got an $800,000 increase and 300 of it is just in maintenance, you know, it does, like, we should really need to make sure we're taking a really close look at.
Can I jump onto that for 1 second?
Sure.
So I think for some of us that maybe don't necessarily understand the budget in the depth that others do, it might be helpful for us to break down that type of conversation where this is, you know, $800,000 and change and this is where it's going to. If it's, you know, buying new equipment, or if it's staffing more people, or if it's whatever it is, with such a large budget, and sometimes I think for myself only can be a little confusing. If there was, Jolene, correct me if I'm way off of what you're saying, if there was a little bit more understanding of the breakdown of where those increases are, even in generalities, instead of like maintenance of something, like what actually is in that. Am I kind of where you are? Or?
Yes, I mean, we've been kind of directed that this should be the only level that we really need to look at, if I'm looking at it at this level. I guess we're not really getting the support of why there's a $300,000 increase in maintenance and only a $100,000 increase in instruction.
Sure.
Like,
Okay. A lot of it is the lawnmower, but yes.
right.
And then maybe if this board's theory is to increase that number for instruction or something like that, we could have that discussion a little bit more openly, and where that money should be.
And I do think that this board does feel that putting something in place to make the data that we saw earlier this year better, and kind of getting some updates of this is what we're going to be doing to increase that data, and this is how the budget's gonna support that. I think this board should be behind that.
I think that might be specifically why that lawnmower was mentioned, though, because it was correct me if I'm wrong, 20-something-year-old mower.
It is.
I wanna say closer to 30.
It is. It's probably about 22, 23 years old.
Anyway, it was
Yes.
highly in need of major repairs, it sounded to me, and maintenance. It's a long-term expenditure. You're going to buy a new mower, and then you're either going to trade it in when it's still very valuable, or you will get another long-term out of it,
Yes.
and it will be a big line item down the road again somewhere.
At some point.
So you have a blip in your maintenance and you know, plant operations this year, it sounds like to me.
But why wouldn't you use fund balance to make that call? Why wouldn't you use fund balance instead of creating the ebbs and flows?
We could. Our fund balance, our appropriated fund balance right now is already at 800,000. So increasing that with our excess fund balance right now at about 225,000, we may fall below the 4%.
So it was asked, what is your fund balance at the end of the year? And you said 200 and change.
225,000.
So you think from the end of the year with revenues, expenditures, you know, you think you're only gonna have 200,000 at the end of the year?
That's what is projected, yes.
So last year you had $1 million, the year before that you had $1 million, and this year you're saying 200,000.
About 225,000.
So where is the shortfall?
There's been expenditures. There have been expenditures in this budget. And a lot of it has to do with the buildings and grounds.
So we shouldn't expect to hear, can we move money in June to reserves? Because you're only gonna have 200,000.
It's going to be a lower year than in the past, yes, if our projections hold true. Yes.
Okay. Other questions? Jolene, I'm sorry, did you say?
No, I'm good.
No,
I'm good.
okay. Okay, thank you, Mr. McDonald.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
What reserves are we gonna be using? You have a line, it went so quickly, I'm looking forward to having that on the website to review later.
We
What
generally,
reserves?
we budget for unemployment. I don't have the notes. I'll get that to you. It's unemployment, there's two others. I'll get that to you.
So your unemployment, based on your expenditures last month, you still had 0 spent, which was $3,000.
Correct.
You have a reserve for $357,000, which is about, you know, if you spend $3,000 a year, that reserve's gonna last you for 119 years.
Provided we don't have a year like 2008, 2009.
We can't get enough people to come to work right now. But 119 years
This
is
is true.
a long time for a reserve to be there. So you have a $3,000 expense, you have nothing there right now, so how are you gonna use that reserve to make yourself whole? And then what other reserves are you gonna use besides unemployment?
I will look, I will get that to you. I don't have that in front of me right now, and I wanna make sure that it's accurate.
Thank you. Any questions on the administrative reports?
I got a question. Did I miss the CSEC? Was that?
That was in the
Seeker.
consent agenda.
That was included, because I
Yeah.
was thinking 1, 2, and I didn't drop down to that, so, okay, gotcha, thank you.
Okay, no problem.
There was a question earlier, can you speak to the one-to-one devices and where we are with?
Oh,
that?
we've had one-to-one devices since 2014. All students currently have a Chromebook with a touchscreen that is compatible for the CBT computer-based testing that we'll be doing for the state test this year.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions on administrative reports? Okay, seeing that we don't have executive session matter, I will take a motion to adjourn, please. Thank you, Mrs. Bliss. And a second. Anybody? Thank you, Mr. Dates. 7:49. Thank you.